I was driving alone down a desolate road, aimlessly, with the feeling that the night would never end. The loneliness was heavy, and the silence, broken only by the constant sound of my tires rolling on the asphalt, made my thoughts wander through memories and doubts. Hunger, which had been with me for hours, clenched my stomach forcefully, insisting that I needed to eat. There had long been no sign of civilization. The city lights had disappeared on the horizon, replaced only by the glow of the stars and the vast darkness. It was in this state of mind that, suddenly, my eyes caught sight of something unusual, a small building by the side of the road. As I got closer, I realized it was a butcher shop. A neon sign, although worn, still flashed the word "Ashu" in red letters, standing out against the dark backdrop of the night. The scene was surreal. A butcher shop open at that hour in such an isolated place with no houses or any movement around. Despite the discomfort and strangeness, hunger won over. I parked the car, turned off the engine, and with my heart racing, walked toward the door. The bell hanging at the entrance jingled as the door creaked open, revealing a cramped and dimly lit interior. The air was dense and filled with the smell of raw meat and a slight metallic tang, as if the place overflowed with blood and hard work. The tiled floor bore stains and scratches, while peeling walls and aged furniture gave the impression that time had stopped there. The lighting came from weak yellow bulbs that merged with the surrounding darkness. In the center of the small room, a refrigerated display case showcased various cuts of meat. There were large pieces of a vivid red, and others with shapes that evoked a sense of strangeness. Some cuts seemed too long, with a texture that suggested they had been meticulously worked. Behind the counter, a huge man observed me with a silent gaze. He wore an apron that had once been white, but was now stained with dried splatters of a dark liquid, perhaps blood. His muscular arms, marked by scars, revealed years of work in the art of butchering. His deep, intense eyes seemed to hold ancient secrets, and the way he looked at me made me feel as if I were just another item in his nightly routine. "Are you lost?" he asked in a deep, hoarse voice, as if each word carried the weight of untold stories. For a moment, I didn't know how to respond. Hunger, fatigue, and a mix of fear and curiosity swirled in my chest. I took a deep breath and spoke in a trembling voice. "No, I'm not lost. I'm hungry. I haven't found any other place to eat. Do you have something here?" The man tilted his head, evaluating my words with an expression that mixed amusement with something darker. His lips curved into an enigmatic smile, and he answered simply, "Here, only meat. I only work with meat." As I listened to his response, my eyes fixated on the display case. Among the various cuts, a small piece caught my attention. It was separated from the others, with a different coloration, almost black, and a texture that seemed denser and more fibrous. A shiver ran down my spine, but there was also a strange attraction, as if it were something I had never tasted before. "What kind of meat is that?" I asked, trying to hide the unease consuming me. The butcher remained silent for a long moment, his eyes lowered to mine as if trying to probe my soul, before he finally responded, "Something you've never tasted before. If you want, I can cut a piece right now. Fresh meat prepared on the spot." The offer, both tempting and disturbing, made every instinct in me urge me to run. Yet hunger, mixed with curiosity and the sensation of being on the brink of a revelation, kept me from retreating. I fumbled through my pockets for some notes, my hands trembling as I handed them over, while my eyes never left the man who, with precise movements, headed to the back of the establishment. While I waited, I observed every detail of that place. The rusty hooks on the wall held pieces of meat that dripped slowly, forming small puddles scattered across the floor's corners. A chainsaw rested on an old board, ready to spring into action at any moment. Everything exuded an air of mystery, as if each object bore the mark of countless secrets and stories from nights long past. Soon, the rhythmic sound of a knife slicing through meat filled the space. Thump, thump, thump. Each stroke seemed to measure time in an almost hypnotic way, and my heart raced with every thump. When the sound ceased, the butcher returned to the counter and, with the same precision as before, carefully wrapped the piece of meat in brown paper. As he handed me the package, he looked directly at me, and for a moment I felt his eyes were searching for something I couldn't quite identify. "Do you want to know where this meat comes from?" he asked, his tone carrying an implicit warning. The question echoed in my mind, and for a moment I considered refusing. But perhaps driven by hunger and a barely explainable curiosity, I simply replied, "No." He smiled again, a smile that never reached his eyes, and murmured, "Good, because once you taste it, there's no turning back." Without exchanging any more words, I left the butcher shop and returned to my car. The door closed with the tinkling of the bell, marking in a way the end of a part of my journey. I drove back onto the road, yet something within me had changed. The taste of that meat, even without having sampled it, already occupied my mind with an insistence I couldn't ignore. During the drive, the surrounding scenery seemed to take on new contours. The darkness of the road, once monotonous, now exuded a mix of danger and fascination. The wind that swept through the windshield carried with it the scent of the night, a perfume of damp earth, dry leaves, and inexplicably, raw meat. Every sound, every shadow, appeared to bear the mark of that forsaken place. Upon arriving at a gas station, I decided to take a break. The fluorescent light of the place, though cold and impersonal, could not dispel the images and sensations of the night I had just experienced. I sat in an isolated corner, holding the package firmly in my hands. Still hesitant, I carefully unwrapped it. The aroma that escaped was intense and different from what I had expected. It was a peculiar blend of scents, the metallic tang of iron, an umami reminiscent of something ancient, and a subtle earthy note that evoked memories of a forgotten time. With my heart racing, I don't know what came over me. It was as if I had been hypnotized by the meat. I brought the piece to my lips. Though it was raw, I found myself indifferent. At first contact, the texture was surprising, firm and dense, yet with a tenderness that belied its robust appearance. Each bite revealed a complex flavor, merging the familiar taste of meat with an indescribable nuance. There was something almost hypnotic in that flavor, as if it carried within it the essence of something mysterious and forbidden. Amid the sensation of satiety, an unease settled in, a feeling that somehow my life would never be the same after that moment. As I drove back home, the memories of that encounter haunted me. The butcher's words, the tinkling of the bell, the sound of the knife slicing, everything seemed etched into my memory. I found myself reliving every detail, every emotion, as if time had frozen that decisive moment. No matter how much I tried to rationalize it, I couldn't shake the feeling that the meat I had just tasted did not belong to an ordinary world. In the days that followed, the experience became a constant presence in my routine. During meals, the taste of that meat surfaced in my thoughts, reminding me of a night when, driven by hunger and despair, I allowed the unknown to touch my soul. I began avoiding bright lights and loud noises, preferring moments of twilight that somehow made me feel safer. In the silence of the early morning, I would sometimes relive the scene, the butcher's fixed gaze, the rhythmic sound of the saw, and that inexplicable flavor that seemed to have awakened something within me. At first, I tried to forget. I immersed myself in everyday activities, as if I could erase that singular moment from my memory. But the more I tried to ignore it, the deeper the sensation became, like a mark left by something that can never be unlearned. Books and research turned into frustrated attempts to understand what had happened that night. I wanted to grasp the mystery of the flavor, the enigma behind that unusual piece of meat. However, the more I sought answers, the more doubts multiplied. I discovered that there are things in life that, no matter how hard we try to unravel, remain shrouded in shadows. On an impulse bordering on obsession, I decided to hit the road again. It wasn't just the desire to understand. It was also the longing to feel that inexplicable sensation once more, to confront the mystery head on. I drove aimlessly, guided by an impulse I couldn't explain. When, once again, the red sign flashed by the roadside, I felt a shiver run through my entire body. I parked the car and, with cautious steps, entered the butcher shop once more. This time, the atmosphere seemed even more charged. The familiar setting acquired new details under the watchful eye of someone who had already experienced it before. The smell of raw meat was more intense, and the shadows seemed to whisper secrets in every corner. The butcher, who was already waiting for me, observed me with the same enigmatic expression, but this time his eyes appeared to carry a hint of curiosity. "Back for more?" he asked, in a tone that mixed recognition with something I couldn't decipher. I was paralyzed for a moment. Deep inside, a battle raged between the need to understand and the desire to flee from that place. But finally, in an almost inaudible whisper, I said, "I want to understand. I want to feel it again." He approached slowly, running his hand over the counter as if recalling every moment spent there. The ensuing silence was thick, laden with hidden meanings. Then he spoke again. "Not everything needs to be understood. Sometimes the taste of the meat is just an invitation to discover parts of ourselves that were dormant." Those words echoed within me with an almost palpable intensity. I felt that, at that moment, I had accepted a truth that couldn't be explained in simple terms. I knew then that the mystery of the meat and what it represented would never be fully unraveled. I left the butcher shop with a mix of relief and unease, aware that the journey that had begun that night was only taking its first steps towards something deeper and perhaps irreversible. Back on the road, it felt as if the night had transformed into something alive, that every shadow and every sound carried the mark of that encounter. The meat, with its unique and disturbing flavor, was not merely nourishment. It was a reminder that there are desires and secrets dwelling within each of us, waiting to emerge when we least expect them. Even after so many miles traveled, the flavor persisted in my memory like an insistent whisper, urging me to seek answers that perhaps I would never find. The butcher didn't give me that marvelous meat again, but he gave me something much better. The information on where to get more of that meat. And now I'm on the road. I'm going hunting. I'll take advantage of the darkness. I just need to find someone alone. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.